Hello and welcome to this, the penultimate program in the series Speightstown, a Forgotten Treasure. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. As always, I do appreciate the fact that you have opted to spend the next 30 minutes with my guest. In our last program, we continue that look towards the future. In so doing, we recognize that Speightstown is being touted as a possible cultural hub. We were told of the need for a navigable port, a revived fishing industry, and we were cautioned that the town's survival is dependent on its expansion. This week's program builds on last week. Our guests are all individuals who have either resided in Speightstown, individuals who are residing here now, or individuals who have a special interest in the development of this town. They will share with us their ideas on the possible future. We begin with resident Reynold McLean.
In looking forward where Speightstown is concerned, we have to look and see where we came from and what made the town thriving, I wouldn't even say metropolis, but a thriving entity, what it was. And the greatest resource Speightstown has is sea. And when we look at the sea, we see that we came up with fishing, trade, and all those things which made Speightstown the kind of town it was.
On Monday, May the 4th, 2014, this program became the subject of a Talk Your Talk discussion program heard on Quality 100.7 FM. On that occasion, caller Arthur Ramsey voiced his concern about the future of the town. Now, while most of the guests who participated in this program have supported the adaptive reuse of the buildings here, Mr. Ramsey, on the other hand, shares a different view. To support his argument, he uses the example of Speightstown.
It's a little fishing village. And to get where it is today, Speightstown had to push down a lot of older buildings, not because they want them, but because it did not fit the plan that they had for development. Look at Speightstown today. Speightstown has a large shopping area, it has banks, it has restaurants, it has gas stations, all those kind of things. You have to develop a commercial hub for people to want to come. But I think the problem with Speightstown is that people want Speightstown to develop on the old Speightstown, old building thing. But that is not going to happen. They're going to have to lose some of those buildings and redevelop the place along modern lines, and Speightstown will come back to life just like Speightstown has. They can do the same thing, but they cannot do it with a lot of old buildings now, heritage and so on. You can't keep all those old buildings. Not going to work.
Resident Reynold McLean remains adamant that there can be an adaptive reuse of the building here in historic Speightstown. He also maintains that the historical nature of the town can be continually built on.
The town has a lot of history, and we can build on that. So we can easily make Speightstown a mecca for tourist attraction. We can restore it on a historical theme, and we do have space for cultural development. The Esplanade was once used as the center of the North for all plays and all types of cultural displays. It can be further used for that, but of course, again, it has to be put to good use.
The Esplanade, another area where shows can be held. I mean, the Alexandra School Hall, there's so many places that, you know, and I mean, even the present resource center, all of those are spaces that could be used for various activities. Most of them cultural, some of them may even be political, but whatever, things that will pull people out and get them to be involved more in the cultural life of Speightstown and in the upgrading, hopefully the upgrading of the commercial life of Speightstown.
It has to have a lot of the activities which distinguish Bridgetown. We've said that you can resuscitate, revive the schooner system. You don't have to revive the schooner system in terms of taking people to Bridgetown. Look, you had the Jolly Rogers and those things which came up to Speightstown and turned around. You can reorganize that. pleasure craft and seagoing activities can be done. You can have racing, jet skis, etc. from Bridgetown to Speightstown. You can have a number of things originating in various parts of the island and ending in Speightstown. Up to 10 years ago, you had the Barbados Marathon ending at Haywoods. It no longer is. But you see, if you had something there to entertain people, right, it will still be ending here.
In previous programs, we heard calls for the buses to be returned to Queen Street Road. Many felt that this was a way of generating economic activity here in the town. You would recall that many regarded this as one of the reasons for the economic downfall of Speightstown. Peggy McGarry and Reynold McLean share a different view.
Buses on that coast road have always been problematic. The road is narrow, and with the increase in other traffic and pedestrian traffic, that had its own problems. And Speightstown, it started to become a little chaotic, especially on Saturday mornings. So I can see the reason for not having the buses in Speightstown right down on the coast road. But I don't know if maybe you can have one or two pass through. Something like that could happen again.
Whether it's coming into the town from Bridgetown or out of the town to Bridgetown, because the roads are narrow. But yes, when the traffic was on the highway and nobody had to come into the town anymore because of everything was either Bridgetown or Whole Town where you keep going. Initially, that's the first thing that did happen.
It doesn't necessarily mean that if people go to the bus terminal a little higher up that they can't come back down. But then again, we don't like walking, do we?
You can't please everyone, can you? Now, it is a form of travel which involves either observing or participating in a sporting event. Sports tourism is a fast-growing sector of the global travel industry and equates to $6 billion annually. Sport event tourism, celebrity and nostalgic sport tourism, and active sports tourism. Now, what about the possibility of having Speightstown developed as a sport tourism venue? Do we have the available space for such? Amory Burke shares her research.
Sports tourism in the northern part of the island is predominantly, if you look at it, golf. And most of the golf courses are already self-contained. Westmoreland is self-contained, Sandy Lane is self-contained, Apeshill is self-contained. Outside of golf, there is polo. Polo is self-contained as well within that area. Sports tourism in Barbados, and looking at the Speightstown area, I think I mentioned that it's pretty densely populated. The only real recreational facility for sports in Speightstown is the Mahiga playing field. It is already in utilization by the locals. But in terms of sports tourism within that area, Speightstown does not really have that, not only the facilities to have a broad sports tourism product, but neither does it have the expansion capacity to house a sporting arena. So sports tourism, unfortunately, in Barbados, because of the location of where Speightstown is not necessarily the ideal place for that type of activity to occur.
You would recall that in last week's program, historian Trevor Marshall cautioned that the town must expand or die. Aware of the limited area, he is today proposing a vibrant sports tourism venue in the new and expanded town.
They have been trying to move the Garrison Savannah, remove it from horse racing. Right? Remove it from horse racing and place, and there's been talk, I've been hearing about it, making that square mile an area of housing development in Bridgetown, just outside Bridgetown. If that happens, and remember in Jamaica, there was an area called Knutsford Park, which is now New Kingston. The same thing was done in Jamaica. Horse racing area was taken in, and I go to Jamaica, I've been to Jamaica every summer for the last 30 years. And every year in Knutsford Park, skyscrapers go up. It is now New Kingston. That can happen to the Garrison. If that happens, people will be looking around for a horse racing area. Why not St. Peter? Why not say Orange Hill or Four Hills? or Pie Corner. Huh? Areas like that. And that is culture. Horse racing is a culture. It is not jumping up and dancing and singing, but it is horse culture. The rearing of horses, bearing of foals and colts, grooms, handymen, riders, the establishment of pari-mutuel and all of the other gaming activity that goes on. All of that is culture. And Speightstown is lagging because we've not turned culture into commerce. And that must be your watchword. Take culture and make it commerce.
Well, that calls for an imaginative life, realizing the importance of our culture, the commercialization of that commodity, and also some of the means of challenging the rules of mass entertainment in our lives. Peggy McGeary continues with the natural environment and its many possibilities.
We have a lot of natural areas, and the reefs of Speightstown are areas that maybe diving and so on could be developed. I'm not sure what the condition of those reefs is, but there is so much to be done in a natural environment. The hikes and tours that can go through the Rim Gully in either direction, either coming down through it or going up through it. There's so much that can be done in various areas in Speightstown and its environs.
Many believe that the possibilities of this town are limitless. The direct question to all of us is, what is it that you would like to see here in historic Speightstown? We pose that question to our guest. We begin with businessman Paul Altman.
I would love to kickstart Speightstown by having government look at just doing Queen Street, doing it the way they did St. Lawrence Gap, maybe putting some brick pavers, putting some gas lamps, because Speightstown, I'm told, had gas lamps.
We will return to Paul Altman's ideas for the future of Speightstown. Douglas Roth spent his formative years here in the town. We thought it interesting to have him share what he knows about those gas lamps, which Paul Altman is suggested could be brought back to the town.
The early 40s, Speightstown was lit by gas lamps. A chap, well, he gone home now too, near Worrell. Used to walk around with a long stick with a little hook. And every night he would go up the street, up to there by the Alexander School. That was the first light up there. Dip the switch and the light come on. And he'd come back down wherever one of those lights was. He had to turn them on. But there wasn't a lot of light. It's only after then the electricity came down to Speightstown. And we then had lights, what we call moonlight on stick. You know, in those days we call it moonlight on stick because you didn't even know the moonshine when the lights turned on.
An interesting point by Mr. Rock. The coming of street light, or moonlight on stick as it was called, prevented the residents of Speightstown from enjoying the moonlight and the beautiful constellation above. At that time, this was seen as development or being progressive. However, in terms of beauty and character, apart from being able to illumine more darkness, it was no match for the gas lamps, for these were a special feature of the town. Paul Altman continues.
You know, the character of any place is defined by small things. All you do is put a row of gas lamps in this town, and people will come just to see that, because people, you know, that would be a signature of the place. And, you know, planting, another thing. But, you know, we need to plant things that you know, that people would respect. And people will start to respect things if they're done properly. Sometimes they're done in a way that they are, if I may be so rude as to say, paying lip service to what is the right way, as opposed to doing it the right way.
It is clear that the town has great potential for development and growth. May we do it the right way. Peggy McGeary on the way forward for Speightstown. You would recall her sharing her memories of pond boat racing as a child, the excitement it generated, and how that sporting activity became a signature of the town. Is there a place for this activity in Speightstown? Could it become a sports tourism activities proposed by Amory Burke and Trevor Marshall?
I would like to see the pond boat racing come back. But in order for pond boat racing to come back, you have to know how to make pond boats. The people who used to make the pond boats are, most of them, dead. And you would also have to capture the interests of young people for that. And it's not going to grow like phenomenally. I think it is something that has to catch on. But in the light of community tourism, we are always talking about community tourism. And I think that that is one of the things that could attract tourists to the Speightstown area. Now, if you get, and it's something that would most likely have to happen like on a weekend, on a regular basis on a weekend, or once a month, or have a season of it like how you have horse racing, I don't know. But first of all, you would have to go through the process of teaching people how to make those pond boats. And once you can get those boats made, teach them how to sail them, you know, the whole rules and regulations. I'm sure there's still people around in Speightstown who know about the rules and regulations for that. And I think that that's one of the things that could be done, you know, get a tourist to rent a boat, you know, and you know how they come and get involved in crop over? Come and get involved in something like that. Now, that is only one small thing, and that would only bring people at a particular time.
But it just takes the willingness of those who are in authority to look at that as an option. We then have the waterway, the old salt pond, which could become cleaned up and managed to become an attraction in itself. That salt pond used to carry mangrove trees and bird life teeming with it. So we would have to say that if you can't go that route, at least we can clean it up and manage it and have it looking attractive. It can become another tourist attraction.
Now, historian Trevor Marshall, in an earlier program, did speak about rescuing the many derelict buildings and disused spaces in the town. Peggy McGeary goes a step further.
Places that were significant in Speightstown, like for example, where Roland Edwards, who did the song, the national anthem. I know that there's a problem with the ownership of that property, but I still think it could be uplifted, upgraded a little bit. And we need to put up plaques and signs saying that this thing happened here or that thing happened there. And it has been happening in Bridgetown, and it has been happening for some of the areas, for example, on the slave route. The Ministry of Tourism took up that. And there are places that are labeled and they have big, nice signs up saying, this place was, you know, this land was bought in so-and-so, and this man did this with this land. But showing how people, you know, the whole development of slavery and how people came out of it. But all of that could be done in St. Peter as well. Again, this would be catering to the tourist industry, but also educating the people of the North about the heritage of the North and of Speightstown in particular.
Peggy McGeary underscoring the importance of good signage, the idea of directing visitors and locals to sites and attractions using a uniform type of signage. Perhaps in Speightstown we should follow the international convention of using brown signs with white lettering and white pictograms. Of course, the biggest artifact of Speightstown is Speightstown itself. And this landmass, of course, cannot be housed in a museum. So, in a sense, the entire town becomes a museum with artifacts all around. What about those small relics of the town and other representations that must be housed in a building?
The Arlington Museum has some room for development as well, to tell more of the story of Speightstown. I think more of that should be done at that museum because, you know, you get a sense of, it is more national than focusing on Speightstown. Not that that was the intention, I'm not saying that that was or should be, but I think it could deal more with Speightstown and its development. And I think they have the space to do it as well.
And I can bet you if you go and do a survey, a person in Speightstown, ask them if they know what is in the museum. They can't tell much about what's in the museum, and I know that the museum had it open there. And much people didn't take up the opportunity. So that says a lot about the people in the town. But if you come with certain aspects that you want to bring people down, they should be properly, I would say, promoted or advertised, whatever.
You would recall that at the start of the program, caller Arthur Ramsey shared his ideas on retaining the old buildings here in the town. Businessman Paul Altman has a different view.
The first thought is commercial. We never throw out the options of mixing use. There are many wonderful examples in towns of of creating mixed use types of options, so that if you had 3 levels, you may have ground floor is always commercial. The middle floor could be an office, and the top floor could be a residence. Or you could have just offices and commercial, or you could have a restaurant. You know, the options tend to present themselves once you get things rolling, and you know that you many times don't have to worry about that if you do it right, if it is done attractive, and if it's done right, and if people feel comfortable that you're going to you're going to give them some room to operate and work with them. Because you know what we always have to face in new development is that people who come in as tenants or operators or take risks by putting their money into doing some sort of business, knowing that you, when you redevelop, took a bigger risk, but you always have to work with them. And my experience in business is that if you work with people who come in to tenant your building that you have put your love, effort, and done right, that sometimes a little bit of delay in making a return gives a bigger return at the end. So you have to work with people, certainly in a difficult economy. It isn't so in a vibrant economy. A vibrant economy, you get back everything right away. You could be very successful and so on and so on. But we go through our declines and our ups and downs. And
so if we go down that route, I think it will take a little time before you see big commercial development, and especially in the economic environment that we are existing in now. I don't see anything happening in a hurry, but give it a little time. I think if we start from small beginnings, we can push Speightstown to a better position than where it is right now.
But I would say that it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take risk. I believe that you have the financial institutions that need to support this type of entrepreneurial venture, and that there's much room for getting involved now, with the expectation that you may have a little bit of a time lag between putting your capital at risk and seeing that reward.
And I'm hoping that the opening of the hotel at Almond, I'm hoping that that will start to pull more people into the town. Workers, they may not come from Speightstown, but they will certainly buy things in Speightstown and help to fuel the economy there.
And the development that is going to take place there is going to develop naturally. We already have the development of Haywoods into Haywoods Park and the Golden Mile development, which has enlarged the urban area of Speightstown, if you want to put it that way. And the bus routes then become sort of natural developments. I think that sooner or later, 6 Mains, which is not that far away, will eventually become linked somehow into the Speightstown or the greater Speightstown development, because you already have the hotel project there, you already have the Port St. Charles and Port Ferdinand between there and Haywoods. So already there's a sort of a linkage that is moving outward to encompass the village of 6 Mains. Going further south, along the highway corridor, you have Roadview being developed with St. Peter's Bay and people, houses moving in and further development. And if you're going inland up Church Street, well, you have the Morris Bayer Polyclinic, and you have houses in that area going towards Station Hill, a natural development. And when you look at Station Hill, below the part of the rim, we never, in days gone by, we never had that kind of development, but they're filled with houses down in there now. So it is growing naturally already. But as I said, development in commerce will drive further development.
And I'm hoping that some of the bigger businesses or some of the developing businesses in Bridgetown or elsewhere could open departments in Speightstown so that you don't necessarily have to go to town for anything, and especially the cost of gasoline. If you're living in the north, why go to Bridgetown? I suppose it is more exciting. There are more stores and all of that. I can see nice dining areas, cafe, sidewalk dining along the beach area, and even on the roadside for that matter. I mean, Clement has a little area in front of him, but he would literally be in the road. But if you design something, and especially in that area that goes to the north of the town or heading into the Haywoods area, I think that places like that are excellent for development, for having nice sidewalk cafes and you know, areas where you can go and drink a latte and relax and watch the sea and whatever. But I would gear it to first try to pick up more tourists, hope that the tourist activity will increase the commercial activity in the area, and see where it goes from there.
Peggy McGarry loves this place wherein her navel string is buried. She loves this place wherein she received her early education. She loves this place wherein she was nurtured and taught the great lessons of life. Today, many years after, and now with the town in decline, she remains hopeful that her beloved Speightstown will not become a forgotten treasure.
I believe that we will find that something, that little something that makes Speightstown a focal point for the north, something that makes it come alive. And I think the business people could put their heads together along with the politicians and people from Speightstown and see if they could come up with some answers. Not necessarily all no, but you try it. You know, you just need to try various things and see.
It is absolutely clear that Speightstown requires a collaborative effort, a coming together of the minds, hearts, and hands. Hopefully, the end result of all of this will be the restoration of economic activity that can support the town and so dispel the fear that it is becoming a ghost town.
No, I don't like to think that's ghost town, because people still want to know. People still want to know, is there anything happening in Speightstown? And remember, in the Bible, in the New Testament, people ask, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And the answer was, come and see. And you must take that as your watchword. Can anything good come out of Speightstown? Come and see.
Come and see. We came, we saw, and with the help of all of our guests who willingly and unselfishly shared their knowledge and experiences in this program throughout the entire series, today we now live to tell, and the answer is yes. A great deal of good came out of Speightstown. Good is today coming out of Speightstown, and yes, good can continue to come from this historic town, which means so much to so many of us. And so we bring to an end this, the penultimate program in the series, Speightstown, a Forgotten Treasure. I certainly hope that these programs have, in one way or the other, helped you to answer the question whether or not Speightstown is a forgotten treasure. Until next week at the same time, when we bring you the final program, a recap of the entire series, I'm Sherwood McCaskey, wishing you every blessing.